satellite network affiliates, spanning the world, your connection to the world's best, presents the Seminar Link. Today, from Salt Lake City, Utah, to Portland, Oregon, to Kansas City, Missouri. Presenting live, the Supercharged Salesperson. Bringing you Patricia Fripp, Don Hudson, Dr. Dennis Waitley, and your host, Art Linkletter. Ladies and gentlemen, star of two of the longest-running shows in broadcast history, author of 23 books, millionaire businessman, and former U.S. ambassador to Australia, Art Linkletter.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, my. What a flattering introduction. True, of course. But then I needed those kind words. This business of speaking and traveling around the country puts you in touch with a lot of very unusual people. Out in the hall here, a man walked up to me, gray-haired, pot-bellied, rather old, walked up. He says, "You're Art Linkletter?" I says, "Yeah." He says, "I was on your show when I was 5. Well, that does nothing for me. The other day, a little old lady walked up to me, so enthusiastic. She says, "You're Art Linkletter." I said, "Yes." She says, "I'm one of your oldest fans." She says, "I've watched your career right from the beginning to the very end of it." Well, I tell you, I'm delighted to be here. I'm delighted to be anywhere. And that introduction left one very important word out of it. Salesman. I'm a salesman. Always been a salesman. Proud of it. Pleased by it. And continue to be one every day of my life, as most of you are, whether you're selling products or services or yourself, or if you're a man, selling your wife on the idea that she looks fat in a fur. But the idea of this program is to give you some hints and tips and all kinds of little encouragements, because salesmen are kind of like old tires. They need to be pumped up regularly because we live in a negative world. I started selling before I even knew what I was doing. I was adopted by a minister. And when I was 5 years of age, he used to bring me out to the pulpit and say, "This is my little boy, my little orphan boy, Artie. And the way he grows up and becomes a man will depend on what he eats. We'll now take the collection." I would go up the main aisle looking over the sinners. And you know, that was 70 years ago, and I can still look over a crowd like this and estimate within about $1 of what we'd get if we took one up right now. I don't know how many Baptists there are in Salt Lake City, but maybe there are more in Kansas City and Portland. Incidentally, this is a thrill to be in 3 towns all at once, talking to you right off the top. And those of you who agree with me that selling is a great profession in Kansas City, let me hear you yo, a nice big yo. Yeah, that's big enough. How about Portland? Let's hear a yo from Portland. I think they're outside the door. And how about right here in Salt Lake City? Yo! Well, you're going to have a feast in these next few hours. We have 3 great speakers. I've been speaking now for 20 years, and I've heard and seen some of the best speakers in the country, and we've assembled 3 top ones. And SNA is thrilled to be establishing what we call the Seminar Link. Now, these communities are all over the country. We're planning a series of permanent, what they call downlink sites and facilities for seminars just like this. We hope you're excited because you're in for a supercharged day, and we have with us author and respected businesswoman Patricia Fripp. And for those of you who've heard Patricia before, you know she's created her own version of lifestyles of the rich and famous. She's traveled all over the world, and speaking about what you want to get out of life, she has gotten it all. She's become a wonderful gal and will identify the qualities that can make us all more successful in life and at selling. Then also a record-setting salesperson and speaker, Don Hudson. Don will share his valuable insight on high-performance selling. how he became the #1 salesperson of a national organization at age 23. It won't take you long to discover why Zenith's chairman of the board, Walter Fisher, said he's never heard a better speaker than Don Hudson. And finally, we have the author and narrator of the world's best-selling audio cassette series on personal and professional enrichment, Dr. Dennis Waitley. Now, Dennis joins us today having counseled leaders in virtually every field, from Super Bowl champions to Apollo astronauts, from Fortune 500 athletes, executives to Olympic athletes. And today, he'll take on the best of them all, us, right here. By the way, I might just say here that I really became a national salesman myself 45 years ago when I got my first coast-to-coast show, People Are Funny, on NBC. I'd been a local broadcaster, and when I got this big network show, the NBC people said, "Now, Mr. Linklater, you're a star now, you're an artist, and we don't want you doing commercials." I said, "I always do commercials. I sell product." My fellow performers all said to me, "Art, you have an announcer who does that. You entertain, and then you get off stage and I said, "I want to be on for years. I want to do the personal selling of these products, because I know that until something is sold, nothing happens. Manufacturing all the plans, unless it moves across that counter, it doesn't work." Well, I must have been right, because People Are Funny lasted for 19 years, 52 weeks a year on NBC, and House Party lasted 52 weeks a year, 5 days a week for 26 years. That's what selling did for me. Thank you. I had the thrill that every good salesman has of not only knowing a good job was being done, but introducing people to new and wonderful services. I introduced America to the electric blanket. Now, that doesn't sound so exciting today, but 35 years ago, if you told somebody to go out and buy a sheet of cloth they put wires in and plug it into the wall and put it over you at night, it took some believable selling. I convinced ladies that Pillsbury cake mix would make cakes. The grandmother's secret recipes weren't as important as what came out of that box. I persuaded people the first time to use a paper-made pen, one that didn't squirt down your vest. And also, I did a little job on my own personal product that I brought here from Australia when I sold the hula hoop. So those of you who are still recovering from pelvic distress know who to blame. Well, these are some of the exciting and interesting things that I have learned through the years. Enthusiasm, belief in your product, belief in the people in you as you meet them and as you sell them, and that's what we're going to hear about today. This program is going to give you tips and hints, and if you only get one or two things out of all of the things these folks are going to be telling you, they could change your life, change your program planning, change everything about you. Now, the one thing that you have to do that none of us can do for you is to remind you that you have to do the work. Because these sales seminars are like having an entrance ticket to an athletic club where you want to take off weight. It does no good if you put the thing in your pocket. You have to go there and you have to work. So whatever is said and whatever you hear and whatever notes you take today requires follow-through, and it requires that positive attitude, which I first found out when I interviewed children. Children are the most positive people in the world. I'll give you one example. 8-year-old boy picked from his school in his whole class by his teacher came on my show, and the first thing I said to him was, "Why do you think the teacher picked you out of your whole class?" And he looked up at me with a happy smile. He says, "I'm the smartest kid in the room." I said, "The teacher told you that?" He says, "No, I noticed it myself." Now, that's really what a salesman has to do. He has to notice it himself. Now, the other people who can be optimistic are older people, old 65 and older. They say anything they want because they don't care. Their enemies are dead for the most part, and they're feeling pretty good about life. A lovely story, a 75-year-old lady at a senior citizen rally at Sun City where I was speaking. They told me she walked up to a handsome, gray-haired 80-year-old fellow. She was a real sales lady. She says, "I never would have believed this possible. This is a 1 in a million shot." And he said, "What are you talking about?" She says, You're handsome. You're kind. You have a beautiful demeanor. You're friendly. You're a dead ringer for my third husband." He says, "How many times you been married?" She said, "Twice." Now that's sneaky selling, but it takes all kinds if you're going to sell. Today's first supercharged speaker comes to us all the way from England. At the young age of 20, she immigrated to San Francisco having no job, no place to live, no contacts. With her determined entrepreneurial spirit and a lot of hard work, our speaker soon became a highly successful and respected member of her business community. She's written the popular book, How to Get What You Want, a book that Og Mandino, remember him, the author of The Greatest Salesman in the World, he calls it one of the best success books of this generation. She's established an unsurpassed speaking reputation, achieving top awards and leadership roles from the toughest critics of them all, other leading speakers. Plus, Meetings and Conventions magazine lists Patricia as one of the most 10 electrifying speaking acts. But perhaps the thing that makes this magnetic and captivating lady most unique is her incredible wardrobe. It's rumored she's never been seen in public wearing the same outfit twice. Her friends tell me she's the only person they know who has an unlimited clothing allowance and exceeds it. They even went so far as to say that probably at her funeral, the hearse will have a luggage rack. Well, if anyone knows the qualities a salesperson must have in order to be successful, it's this multi-talented lady. So please welcome author, respected businesswoman, international speaker, and bi-coastal shopper, the most colorful British export since Fergie, Patricia Fripp. Here she is.
Art told you that I come from England, and when you come from England but live in America, people are always asking you, is there any difference between American people and English people? I personally think the biggest difference is American people think we speak the same language. And that really isn't true. In fact, in 1946, one of my heroes, Sir Winston Churchill, was in New York to deliver a talk. And the night before, a New York hostess served him a late-night snack of cold fried chicken. He asked for some breast. And she said, well, in America, we refer to it as dark meat and white meat. The next day, he sent her a corsage with a note saying, I'd be very honored if you'd pin this on your white meat. That's as racy as I get. But if you can accept that we may have a slightly different vocabulary, I trust you'll understand my message this morning. Now, I was talking to the producers of CNA, and I said, what do you want me to say to these wonderful salespeople in Portland and Kansas City and Salt Lake City? They said, Patricia, salespeople today are very intelligent. You had better be profound. But you're the first speaker on the day after Art Link Letter. You better be funny. And then, of course, remember, you're the only woman on the program, so you better dress up and look good. So do you like the outfit? I raced in the store. I said, I've got to try that suit on in the window. They said, okay, madam, but we do have changing rooms. I don't want you to think I'm extravagant, but I just earned a Lifetime Achievement Award from MasterCard. Sac Fifth Avenue called me last week and said, Miss Fripp, you have an outstanding bill. I said, well, thank you. Today, as salespeople, we all have to do the same thing. We have to build our reputations, prove our reliability, and develop long-term business relationships. All relationships have to be developed, maintained, and nurtured. And today, as we are serving our customers, we have to make sure that everyone in our organization has a customer service attitude. Very important to understand that we are all working to serve our customers as a team. And I like to think the word team really stands for together, everyone accomplishes more. We spend a lot of money investing in technology to sell, but never let us forget it won't replace trust. Professor Albert Morabian studied communications at UCLA for 20 years. He wrote a book called Silent Messages. He said, when it comes to developing trust and believability, which is certainly what you need in sales today, 7% is what you say, 38% is how you say it, and 55% is how you look. And that isn't how you dress, that's your body language and facial expression. No matter how eloquent your sales presentation, people can always tell if you're sincere by the way they feel. One of my best friends in San Francisco had the opportunity to bid on a job that was worth to his company $250,000. 40 people sent in written proposals, 4 were invited in for an interview. Bert had a friend on the committee making the decision. He said, "Don't worry, Bert, your proposal's the best. You're bound to get the job." But after the interview, he didn't. And he said to his friend, "How come you told me my proposal was the best?" His friend said, "Bert, it was. But in the interview, you looked nervous. People will not give you $250,000 if you look nervous. I am suggesting you might not get the opportunity and sales you want and deserve if you are nervous in your communication skills." Now, as a professional speaker, I like to look at other business leaders and political leaders to see what I can learn from them that can help me in my career. Last year, I was fascinated by the presidential debates, but more important than the debates, it was how the experts analyzed them and compared them to former years. When Nixon debated Kennedy, on the radio he did magnificently well, but in person and on television not well at all. Afterwards he said, "I just realized how I looked was more important than what I said." When Reagan debated Carter, some high-power CEOs were brought together by some political consultants, and they said, "We want you to listen to the debates and tell us how you feel about the issues." Now, they underlined the issues. Afterwards, these very sophisticated people are brought together, and they said, "Okay, what do you think?" One of them said, "I like the way Reagan shook hands." Another said Carter didn't appear to be presidential. Another said, "I like the way Reagan chided Carter," and said, "There you go again, Mr. President." Nothing to do with the issues, but to do with the communication skills. You might not like that, but you have to learn it. I had the good fortune a year ago to be on a program with Roger Ailes, the media consultant for Bush and Reagan. And he said, when it comes to politics or business, the silver bullet is the like factor. We have to understand that today's audience is different. And when I talk about audience, I do not mean the audience I would address as a speaker, but the people that you sell to. We are stimulation junkies with short attention spans. We're used to watching television. If it's the slightest bit boring, we change the channel. We video our favorite programs, fast forward through the commercials. We're used to Jay Leno and Johnny Carson giving us the news headlines as a comedy routine. Today, to get your point across, you cannot be boring. Even at Harvard Business School today, they now teach in 20 minutes what a few years ago they taught in 30 minutes because of today's attention span. Now, one of the good things about my life and career, I get to talk to a lot of the top business speakers today. People like Tom Peters, Ken Blanchard, Buck Rogers, the ex-IBM exec. You know what he makes for a speech? $15,000. Now, I know you're thinking that's white-collar crime. But I said, "Mr. Rogers, in your opinion, what does it take to get to the top?" He said, "Simple. Self-confidence and the ability to speak up, even when your point of view is sometimes unpopular." One of my favorite clients who works with a Fortune 100 company was telling me, "Patricia, we do not have products to compete in the next century." And I said, "Terry, well, when you get together at your staff meetings, don't you tell your boss you believe that?" He said, "Patricia, you have to understand, we have a tendency to tell management what they want to hear rather than what we think." I believe in serving our clients today, we have to be open, we have to be honest, we have to speak up even when our point of view is sometimes unpopular if we are working as a team. Now, one of the good things about these CNA get-togethers like this is not only do you get to hear speakers, but you get to talk at the breaks with other salespeople and talk about the challenges that we all face. Now, of course, speakers, when we get together, we discuss our challenges. For us, our biggest challenge is surviving the various audiences we address. Now, people come up to me and say, "Patricia, we were well behaved, we laughed at your stories, we applauded, but what's the toughest group you ever spoke for?" For me, that's easy. 150 squirming, screaming, hyperactive 6th graders. Have you ever been heckled by a 12-year-old? They say cruel things like, "Are you the substitute speaker?" One of my friends was with me. He said, Patricia, that's a very good experience for you. You're getting too used to people telling you you're good. Isn't that true, ladies and gentlemen? So often we get to a certain competence level in our sales career and we make the mistake of coasting. I believe the business world we are surviving in will constantly challenge us. And we better get in the habit of challenging ourselves so we get a head start on whatever the world will send our way. That day I set a new goal: to accept any speaking engagement that would petrify me. 1, so I could grow as a speaker. 2, so I could grow as a person. Now, the next tough assignment I accepted was to address the inmates of San Quentin prison. You have different decisions to make. What shall I wear? I know, stripes. Then how do you start your speech, fellow Americans? Glad to see so many here this evening. Nice to have a captive audience. Well, I was wandering around the crowd talking to people as they came in, as I was this morning, and one young man seemed really enthusiastic about being there, what you might expect at a fun event that SNA would put on, but hardly in prison. He said, how long have you been in America? I said, 13 years, which was true at the time. Oh, he said, that's how long I've been in here. Well, I was longing to say, what did you do? But never having been there before, I didn't know what the etiquette was. Miss Manners, and I'll cover this one. Turned out his name was Robert Perry Froggy. Everyone called him Froggy, and he was in for armed robbery and kidnap, no chance of parole. But I wanted to know why he was so excited. Turned out he had attended another motivational seminar in San Quentin where the underlying message was, you are responsible for your choices and your actions. And he said, Patricia, you know, that was the first time I realized it was my fault I was here, and I stopped trying to escape. Now, he was very good at escaping. He escaped from 2 other prisons. That's why he was there. He invested the equivalent of 6 nights a week getting a college education, even though he didn't think he'd ever get out. Now, an amazing thing happens, ladies and gentlemen, whether you're in Portland, Kansas City, or Salt Lake City. When you make the most of any circumstance you find yourself in, even if you perceive it as negative, miracles appear to happen. A lawyer heard about his case. He said, you know, the laws have changed. I think I can get you paroled. I'll handle your case for nothing. Now, you know, to get a lawyer work for nothing has got to be a miracle. The seminar company made a film on transformation. What happens when you really take charge of your life and career? And they actually featured Froggy in this film. They showed it at all their classes and seminars, and a young lady I know took a class, saw the seminar, and started writing to Froggy. From seeing him on the screen and his letters, she fell in love with him. The lawyer did get him paroled. She went to pick him up, and 5 days later, they got married. Now, I have been desperate for a date many times in my life. And I know what you're thinking, this is some sick, neurotic relationship out of the book Women Who Love Too Much or something. That's what I thought. But they have a very functional relationship. Froggy does a lot of speaking about choices we make in his life, in our lives, and I am one of his mentors in speaking. I had dinner at their home, and he said, Patricia, 95% of the people in San Quentin do not realize they are responsible for being there. They blame their mothers, their fathers, their race, or their environment. But key point, underline, exclamation mark, and the reason I tell you this morning, he said it isn't that much different out here. Everybody else blames the government, the IRS, their sales manager, their mother-in-law, or psychic vibrations in the universe. Very few people realize, number one, the biggest difference in your life and career, your own choices, your own actions. Now, as a group of dynamic, incredible salespeople, whether in Portland, Kansas City, or Salt Lake City, I know you would not be here if you did not understand you are the biggest difference in your life. So I would ask you, what is your own personal philosophy that you take every day when you sell and develop relationships? As someone who was destined to be a salesperson and entrepreneur, my father gave me very good advice when I went to work. He said, don't concentrate on making a lot of money, but rather concentrate on becoming the type of person that people want to do business with, and you most likely will make a lot of money. Stanley Marcus learned from his father, treat our business like a valued member of the family. One of my clients, real character, started fantastic Sam's haircutting franchises. Sam Ross, multi-millionaire in the haircutting business and totally bald. So, Patricia, I have a plaque on the wall behind my desk. It says, "God is watching, give him a good show." He said, "I'm not a particularly religious person, but having that plaque on the wall makes it easier to make business decisions." I ask you all, if you had a plaque on your wall, on your desk, in your car that said, "God is watching, give him/her a good show," would you do anything differently? Could you be any more honest, ethical, committed, or caring? Only you can answer that question. In fact, if you had your company logo on the back of a t-shirt and your own personal philosophy written across the front, what would it say? But even more important, on the days you didn't wear it, would it be obvious by your actions? Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "What you are speaks so loudly, I cannot hear what you say." I was on a program with Paul Harvey, and he said for a company's advertising strategy to work, it has to be handled not only corporately, but also individually. We have to understand that sales is an attitude, not a department. We all have to work as a team in developing our customer relationships. Haven't you ever been in a hotel and you wondered why the desk clerk hadn't looked at their commercials? You say, "Don't you realize you're supposed to be nice to me?" You go in the restaurant and you want to deduct 15% for lousy service? When you're in hotels, don't you ever wonder why the "Do Not Disturb" sign is not written in the same language that the maid reads? Sales is an attitude in our company, and the reason we all have to be tuned into our philosophy of our company and our own is because the world is changing. We live in a time that, unfortunately, you can open the Wall Street Journal and in 3 sections alone read stories on lousy ethics in government and business. I work about 130 times a year for different companies and industries. And I find that most people honestly seem to believe that the change that is going on is only in their company or only in their industry. Part of my job is to say, ladies and gentlemen, change is part of our lives. We have to accept it, not take it personally, and make sure that our customers and our clients can rely on us while everything else is changing for them. Do you realize that if you have a young daughter, when she grows up, she will probably have more husbands than children? She will spend more time caring for elderly parents than raising her children. Experts tell us there is a new generation every 4 years. And every generation has its own ideas and its own values. And we sometimes wonder why it's different to sell to people of different age levels. And certainly in Portland, I know there are dynamic business women. May I hear from you? In Kansas City, dynamic women making a difference in their companies. In here in Salt Lake City, the audience is so good looking, and it's mostly because of the women. But we see so many non-traditional roles in business now. The president of United Airlines said this is the first time in history a flight attendant can now get a pilot pregnant. No, I can't explain that to you, sir. You understand, the one with the tray has the slacks, you got that, flying the plane and skirt, you got that, good. We see so much change in relationships between men and women. I was on a program with Gloria Steinem. She says one of the biggest changes is that women are now becoming the men they used to want to marry. She said men are not becoming the women they used to want to marry. So who's doing the washing up in your household? I don't know. And according to the Census Bureau, 25% of married women that work today make more money than their husbands. Don't know why that should thrill me quite as much as it does, because I happen to be 44 and single. Doesn't bother me that I'm 44 and single, but you can imagine my mother is a tad concerned. She thinks I'm part of the sexual revolution and never been wounded in action. Now, have you noticed, ladies, the older you get, the less fussy your mother gets? In my 20s, it was marry a doctor. In my 30s, it was marry anyone who's ever been to a doctor. Now I'm in my 40s, it's marry anyone who's not been pronounced dead by a doctor. But one big change, of course, we're living with so much technology, and I admit to you, I am not a high-tech type. I think the expression, have a nice day, has been replaced with, I'll fax it to you. I have a $400 clock. Oh, it says 12 o'clock. You probably call it a VCR. Actually, high-tech to me was learning how to use the automatic teller machine. I don't like big, cold, ugly things that put a $200 limit on me. Maybe that's why I don't have a husband. But I have noticed one thing about you Americans. It is not true of British people. You have a relationship with your machines that we just don't have. And you cannot buy anything in America that doesn't have a name. You can't go out even and buy a shaver. It's got to be a Lady Remington. Well, what happens when your machines have names? You get attached to them. And when they break, it's very upsetting. I remember the day my Mr. Coffee died. I went down in the morning and steam came out of his little head, and he made this gurgly sound, and his light flashed, flickered. He was gone. I was devastated. Not only did he make a great cup of coffee, he was the only man in my life stimulating enough to keep me up all night. There has been more change in the last 45 years than 4,000 before that. There have been more transitions in the last 5 years in how we live and how we run our businesses than ever before. And any time you go through a transition in your life or company, it is natural and normal to go through phases. It is an end of the old way of how you used to live or work. It's normal to go through a period of confusion. But what we have to focus on is the fresh starts, the new beginnings, our hopes and aspirations for the future. Seeing that change is inevitable, you're always going to have it in your company or industry, and you still have to go out and sell successfully, I would suggest to you there are 3 things we should think about change. One, that change is good and change is necessary. Secondly, we should have a wish to participate in that change. And third, and probably most important, believe we can make a difference in that change. In our companies, in our industries, in our communities, and certainly in our own lives. There are 2 ways we can react to change. From intelligence or from necessity. The intelligent way is to think, plan, organize, how would I want my life and my career to be? If we react from necessity, other people are controlling our futures. I am not so naive as to think in a few minutes I can give you simple magic formulas how you can sell even more in a changing environment, but I will suggest to you 3 important ingredients you do need in your life. They're not the only 3, but 3 important ones are. 1, a good sense of direction, where you're going as an individual and fitting into your company. 2, you need a good, healthy body. And I don't tell people how to live their lives by saying one thing. It's very difficult to be a dynamic success when you don't feel well. And 3rd, you need a good support system. With the people in your companies that you work with, the people that you live with, your support system at home. And wouldn't it be nice to think that your customers, your clients are so thrilled with the service that you give them that they are part of your support system? Now let's look at a good sense of direction. John Scully in his wonderful book Odyssey talks about back to the future planning. Have a vision of where you want to go, and it's easier to make decisions today. How do you get there? I make all the decisions in my little company and my life from the point of view, if the world were perfect, what would it look like? Now, I know you're probably thinking, Patricia, we know you're supposed to be a motivational speaker, but the world will never be perfect. Well, of course it won't. But don't you realize most of us compromise from too low a level? Start out with what is perfect and then compromise, rather than start out what you think you can do and then compromise. Think about what you want. I have always wanted to be successful. When I was a 15-year-old shampoo girl working in this posh salon in England, You had all these rich, glamorous women as customers. And as soon as I got to know them, I used to say, what were you doing when you were my age? How did you make your money? Did you make it yourself or did you marry it? If you made it yourself, how'd you do? If you married it, where did you meet him? You might think that's nosy. I consider it good market research. And all my life, I've got in the habit of asking people that were successful, how did you do it? One of the most successful women I met in my hairstyling salon in San Francisco is a woman called Drew Scott. She wrote a great book, How to Put More Time in Her Life. She was a speaker, consultant, invested well. But more important, she was always calm. She was never racing around frantic like me. One day she'd had her hair done. I sat on the counter, gave her a cup of coffee and said, okay, Drew, tell me, how did you get what you want? And she said, Patricia, it's really rather simple. Now, I don't know about you, but when I meet successful people and they say, yes, I'm successful, it's outrageously complicated, I have less chance of taking notes than if someone said it's simple. She said, all I do actively on a daily basis is look after each area of my life. Every day I do something nice for a friend. I drop a note of appreciation, a call and say hi. I ask you all, do you have at least 5 people you could check in with in the morning, and checking in with them would make them and you feel better? So every day I do something nice for me, even if it's only soaking a bubble bath for 15 minutes without feeling guilty. Underline, without feeling guilty. Now, I know some of you macho types think that soaking in bubble baths are for women, but I want to tell you it's the best stress reliever you could have, and you don't have to be alone in the bubble bath. She said, every day I do something for my mind. I read or I listen to cassettes. I spent 5 weeks in Morristown, New Jersey doing programs for AT&T, certainly a company that's gone through a lot of change. And one of the researchers on the program after me said, all the knowledge we have right now is going to double in the next 2 years. That would mean if you had the same job with the same company, dealing with the same people in the same community, you would not be the same unless you changed. What are you doing on a regular basis to keep up with not only understanding your industry, but also how the world is changing that affects your industry? She said, every day I do something for my body. I run or I exercise. I know you're looking at me, sir, thinking, where did Fripp get that luscious body? Oh, you weren't? Well, you know, it's not easy looking like Jane Fonda when you started out looking like Henry Fonda. Key point for us in business. She said, every day I do something to keep in touch with the people that now give me business, and every day I do something to get in touch with somebody who doesn't do business with me now, but could in the future. Key point for us in business. We have a tendency to look after today's clients and stop thinking long term. When I bought my first building in San Francisco, I bought it from one of my friends, young, ambitious salesperson. Kept it for several years, and then I thought, I've got lots of equity, let me trade up. I called Al, I said, Al, I want to trade up my building. I want 6 units, this part of town. Okay, Trish, get back to you. 3 months later, I called him and said, Al, I am serious, I want to trade up my building. He said, okay, I'll get back to you. Called him a couple of months later, and I said, look, Al, I have 3 people a day sitting in my chair that would love to send me a building. I want to do business with you. I want someone from your office to call me once a week and say, Miss Fripp, we have not forgotten you. We haven't found what you want, but we are still looking. 4 months later, without one single call from someone from his office, I did business with somebody else. People that you have done business with must know you haven't forgotten them. 1969, I worked for a man called Jay Sebring. He was an innovator in men's hairstyling. He was the first man to do anything natural with men's hair. Got his reputation doing the movie stars, Paul Newman, Steve McQueen, Peter Lawford, and yes, ladies, I have touched Paul Newman. And he said a very simple thing. He said, we only have one gimmick, the best haircut in town. But it wasn't what he said that I found so fascinating as who he said it to. Time magazine, Newsweek, Playboy magazine in 1965 when nobody else was talking about men's hairstyling. Your great American Ralph Waldo Emerson said, if you build a better mousetrap, even though you may live in the center of a jungle, people will be the path to your door. In sales today, that isn't true. You can be the best speaker, the best hairstylist, sell the best widgets. If the world doesn't know, you can starve to death. People do business with people they know. People do business with people that do business with them. People do business with people their friends talk about, and people do business with people they read about. Today, one of the buzzwords is networking. You go out and pass out business cards. But listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. When you are going out, whether you're Salt Lake City, Portland, or Kansas City, imagine that you are at the Chamber of Commerce. You are going into a mixer. You're going to pass out business cards and hope to get more business. But let us look at it this way. All your competitors are probably at the same event. So in each city, I want you to stay in your chair, but just reach around to the people next to you, behind you, shake hands with 2 or 3 people, and introduce yourselves as if you were at a Chamber of Commerce mixer. Remember, your purpose is to have them think of you next time they want your product or service. Right now in Portland, Kansas City, here in Salt Lake City, just introduce yourself as if you were going to meet someone who could do business with you. Right now, just quickly. All right, that's all we have time for. Now what I want to do is come into the audience and introduce myself to a couple of you, and just introduce yourself to me as you did to your partner. Hi, I'm Patricia. What is your name?
Bill Rapley.
What do you do, Bill?
I'm the office manager for TCI Cablevision in West Valley City.
Wonderful. Hi, I'm Patricia. What's your name?
Pleased to meet you. I'm Leslie White.
And what do you do, Leslie?
I'm a marketing manager for TCI Cablevision.
Wonderful. Is it true, in most cases, when we introduce ourselves as a job title? Many people have titles we don't understand, or we have no idea if we could use their product or service. Following a very simple formula, you know how, well, result. I would like to show you a creative way you can introduce yourself that you might be more memorable. I'm going to walk over to you and you're going to ask me what I do, and I will show you how I do it with my profession. Because I maintain, even in sophisticated cities like Tocqueville, Utah, many people don't realize that speakers make a living, or that their company could use one. Hi,
Hello.
I'm Patricia.
Nice to meet you. I'm Carrie McDougall.
Ask me what I do.
What do you do, Patricia?
You know how. Companies have sales meetings that are supposed to motivate and inspire their people, and they're usually dull and boring and people go to sleep. Well, I have some interesting practical ideas that I present in an entertaining way. The result is people stay awake, get their company message, and they feel good about the new information they've learned. I'm a speaker. My name is Patricia Fripp. What we have to do is make sure that the people we meet at the social events, in fact, can relate to what problem we could solve, even if they've never heard of our job title before. Another good support system that you could gather is what I call professional friends. Friends are people in non-competing industries that may be looking for the same sort of clients as customers as you, that you could compare notes, leads, and act as each other's board of directors. Get together for breakfast on a regular basis. It's a great way to start the day, and you have the same feeling as coming to SNA and meeting these wonderful new people you're meeting today. Now, obviously, if you're going to go out and sell, and if you are going to be a dynamic, incredible salesperson with a high like factor, you have to start out in a good mood. Next question in every city. Put your hand up if you wake up with someone on a regular basis. I don't mean get lucky occasionally. I mean wake up every morning. Okay, good. I am suggesting if you are going to be a high-power salesperson, what you need to do is when you wake up in the morning, turn over to your mate and say, "Sweetheart, you are a gift from God.
Isn't that wonderful?
Just sharing my life with you
I
makes
feel
everything
like it.
more wonderful and more special."
You made my day.
Start the day with positive affirmations of love and support. Your problems and challenges will still be at work, but you will handle them better. And then interact with all the people that you come into contact with that have no vested interest in how your day goes, and make it positive. As a professional traveler, it amazes me. I see people at airports abuse porters. These are the people that have the power to send your bags to places you can't afford to go. I don't want my luggage to have more frequent flyer miles than I do. A couple went to marriage counseling, and the wife said, the only thing I ask for from my marriage is to be treated as well as the family poodle. My husband comes home in the evening, he pets the dog and talks to him. She said, all I want is a touch and a kind word. And her husband said, when I come home in the evening, the poodle runs to greet me and wags his tail. And I'm suggesting to you, ladies and gentlemen, that the saddest thing about standing behind a hairstyling chair for 24 years, which I did, was not the varicose veins and the sore feet. I assure you they are there. You needn't look. I saw Lester. Your eyes were just going down. It was the amount of times my customers said to me, you know, my father died last week, my sister died last week, my best friend died last week, and I never told them I loved them. Has been said if the end of the world was coming in 10 minutes, every phone booth in America would be full. And I say, why wait? The feelings you have for other people mean absolutely nothing to them unless they know. Now that is true of the people that you work with. It's certainly true of your support system at home, and it's also true of your customers and clients. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, it costs 5 times more to get a new customer than to hang on the one that we already have. So how can we, as successful salespeople, have our customers as a real support system? First thing, you've got to tell them the truth. Have you noticed people will tell you what they think you want to hear to get you off their back? I got off an aeroplane 4 years ago, 11 o'clock at night, Newport Beach, going to a fancy hotel. I call up, this is Miss Fripp, you're going to send the hotel limo. Yes, Miss Fripp, it came out, your plane was delayed, it came back. I said, not a problem, can you send me another? The voice said, I'll try. I said, you don't understand. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, my body, I do not want to hang up and pray to St. Jude. I'll happily get a taxi, but I don't want to bill my client for a taxi if you will send me the hotel limo. Okay, 10 minutes. Deserted airport, me, telephone, baggage carousel, one tattered, unclaimed piece of luggage. I watch it go around for 8,000 revolutions. I thought, this is Miss Fripp. Where is my hotel limo? Oh, Miss Fripp, we never send anyone out after 10:30. Now, I am a sophisticated traveler. I know when you are at any hotel at 11 o'clock at night, and you're stomping, and you're shouting, and you're acting like a 6-year-old, they will do anything to shut you up. Money comes out of the till to pay for your taxi. They upgrade your room. They send you fruit, wine, cheese. I went back there a couple of years later, ahead of the game, 3:25 in the afternoon. I call up, this is Miss Fripp. Here for Coit Drapery Cleaners, how long is your limo? They said 10 minutes. I said, okay. Deserted airport, telephone, baggage carousel, same tattered, unclaimed piece of luggage. After 20 minutes, I call up and say, this is Miss Fripp. I have waited 20 minutes for your 10 minutes limo. How long? 10 minutes. I said, cross your heart and hope to die. She said, in that case, you need to talk to the bell desk. I said, this is Miss Fripp. I've waited 22 minutes for your 10-minute limo. How long? 10 minutes. I waited 50 minutes for my 10-minute limo. Now, I'm a great believer there is no point complaining to anyone who cannot do something about your problem. I did not shout at the driver. I said, it is not your fault, but please do not make inane conversation. I am very bad-tempered. Even motivational speakers get bad-tempered. I got to the hotel. I said, who is your general manager? John Jenkins. Good afternoon, John Jenkins. You don't know me. My name is Patricia Fripp. I'm a speaker, and I travel nationwide talking about good and bad service. Let me tell you one story I already tell about your hotel. He said, stop telling that story. I said, let me tell you the one I'm adding to my repertoire. Well, of course, I get the fruit, the wine, the cheese. That's how we live on the road, complain, fruit, wine, cheese. But more important, I had a note that said, thank you for not shouting at the driver. It wasn't his fault. Thank you for letting me know what we have to be aware of so we can tell our customers the truth. You understand I have no problem waiting 50 minutes for a limo if I know it's coming. I can then make the choice. Do I get a taxi? Do I, in fact, use the telephone? What do I do? Tell people the truth. Most important thing. Otherwise, you will not be adding to your relationships. All we have to do in business today to have our customers as a good support system is to make sure we do whatever people do that irritate us. We make sure we don't do it. For example, have you noticed many people send their receptionist through Dale Carnegie? Now, I love Dale Carnegie, but they know they have to act enthusiastic to be enthusiastic. But the company doesn't train them then. What do they say when they pick up the phone? Mr. Smith is on vacation, Mr. Jones is out to lunch, Mr. Brown is in a meeting, Mr. White's gone for the day, Ms. Green is with a client, Ms. Black's at a convention. Thank you for calling Atlas Sales. At Atlas Sales, customer service is our #1 priority. When I worked with AT&T Communications, their boss, Big Randy Tobias, came out with a rule. And if everybody lived by this rule, we would all have less gray hair and less wrinkles. Very simply, whoever picks up the phone owns the problem. Doesn't necessarily solves it, but owns it. Do not answer the phone. How can we help you if you are not going to help us? How may I direct the call? I called one company 13 times, and 13 times I heard, he's not at his desk, he's not at his desk, he's not at his desk. I said, then drag the desk to where he is. Let us also confirm, ladies and gentlemen, that everyone in our companies understands we're business consultants learning how to do our job better by learning about what other people do wrong. And let us then confirm we all know we're in a sales situation. I walked into a store a few years ago to buy an office desk. I loved the office desk, and on the desk was a lamp. And I thought, great lamp, it'll look great in my office at home. Walk over and said, can you add the lamp to my bill? She said, we understand that belongs to the lamp department. We only sell office furniture. Not a problem. I go to the lamp department. I look around. I don't see one on display. I go to the assistant. I explain the perfect lamp is on the desk I've just bought. She said, well, you'll have to look through the catalog. So, couldn't find it. I said, well, you understand it's not on display, it's not in your catalog. She said, it must be an old model. I said, not a problem. Can I buy the one that's on display? After all, I've been on display myself many times and I still work perfectly well. You know what she said? You have to go talk to the display department. Have you ever tried to find the display department? And of course, what do they say? Display doesn't sell. Ladies and gentlemen, I was ready to spend money, and they wouldn't take it. Confirm we are all in the selling business. Now, another example, the total opposite. I spoke for the IRS one day. I will take anybody's money, they get mine. I wanted to take some of theirs. I had an appointment downtown to talk to a gentleman about a program. I walk in his office, his secretary says, half an hour, would you like a cup of coffee? No, I'm going to the store opposite, buy a pair of pantyhose. I walk in and the most dynamic, incredible saleswoman is greeting me. She says, wow, you look nice. I said, well, thank you very much. She said, I work in the shoe department. Come talk to me. I said, well, I'm really only here for a pair of hose, but I got to tell you, I have at least 50 pairs of shoes, but I have about 27 more minutes to kill. I'll come talk to you. Well, we're having a great time schmoozing in the shoe department. I figured maybe I could do with a pair of turquoise shoes. After all, I still got 23 more minutes. And then she said, what do you do? And I told her. She said, I knew the way you were dressed, you had to be somebody important. I figure, well, I got another 18 minutes. Let me tell her how important I really am. I said, next week I'm going to a convention of the National Speakers Association. I am going to become their first woman president. She said, for someone as important as that, do I have a dress for you? I said, I know. I saw it when I walked in here. Ladies and gentlemen, I had half an hour to kill. I walked in for a pair of pantyhose, bought a pair of turquoise shoes, and ended up with an $850 beaded evening dress. Now, obviously, I could afford it, but I promise you, until that point, I did not realize I was special enough to deserve an $850 dress. That is the power of the like factor, making it fun, making it easy to buy, and confirming that everybody knows we are in business to sell. Ladies and gentlemen, I know whether you are in Kansas City, Portland, or here in Salt Lake City, that it is tough to stay motivated and excited every day. The world is changing, your company is changing, your industry is changing, but remember, General Eisenhower said leadership is the ability to decide what has to be done and then get people to want to do it. That's what we do in sales. We are building our reputation, proving our reliability, and developing long-term business relationships. We need to work as a team. Everyone in the company is in sales. It's an attitude, not a department. We have to constantly challenge ourselves because the world will challenge us. Get in the habit of getting a head start. Know what your philosophy is. The more the world changes, the more your clients know they can rely on you, the easier it will be. You're going to have to be an effective communicator because people, because of television, are used to people being comfortable with their communication skills. You have to make sure you know where you're going and have the commitment to do what it takes. You need to have a good, healthy body because it's difficult to be a dynamic success when you don't feel well. You need a good support system. That is certainly the people at home. It's the people you work with in your company, and it's serving your customers and clients so well they are part of your support system. Always look at developing professional friends that can recommend you, and be creative in your introductions when you're out meeting people in the business world. Tell people the truth. Confirm everyone knows they're in sales, and try not to do anything that irritates you when you do business with other people. And yes, we're always going to have a few complaints, but let's learn from them. One of my friends was learning to play the piano, and I said, I guess the way to get to be a good pianist is to practice a lot. And she said, Patricia, only if you're playing the right notes. Sometimes when we have some criticisms, we don't like to hear it, but that's how you learn, by getting the feedback. I know you have tough days. You have challenges, you have problems, and sometimes you wonder, oh, do I really want to be in sales? People often ask us as speakers, doesn't it get to you all that travel? And I can honestly say, corny as it may seem, it is such an honor and a privilege to visit you in cities where I can't even see you, that you do not complain about the inconveniences that go along with doing the job I choose to do. Remember, we do what we have to do what we want to do. And I would like to close by quoting my two favorite philosophers. I think about them every day when I go to work. They might be useful to remember for you. One is known for his vision. The other is known for her voluptuousness. Albert Einstein said, let us not strive to be people of success, but people of value. And when your value to your company, your clients, your family, and each other, then you really will be a success. And remember, when you go out in your community and you are introducing yourself in a creative, different way, remember what Mae West said. She said, it's not what I say, but how I say it. It's not what I do, but how I do it. And it's how I look when I do and say it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
You can create positive changes in your life and become the person you've always wanted to be by reading, listening to, and incorporating the powerful ideas of Patricia Fripp. While at home or driving in your car, these outstanding products can help you expand your skills and brighten your outlook. Take Charge is a 6-tape audio cassette album dedicated to helping you improve your business relationships, how to have a love affair with life. This book is written in very easy-to-read, entertaining language, much the way Patricia speaks. It's simply a must for this month's reading list. These quality Patricia Fripp products are now available for you in a special package offer from Satellite Network affiliates. Just for attending today's seminar, you're eligible to receive the Take Charge and Get What You Want audio tape albums, along with the Get What You Want book for just $99. You save almost $70 off the regular retail price, and it's available today in a one-time only opportunity through Satellite Network affiliates. These products are easy to order. Simply complete the order form located in your seminar packet by filling in the appropriate spaces, then return the form to the product display area in the lobby, where you will get a copy of the order receipt for your records and see the materials you're buying. Your products will be shipped UPS within 4 to 6 days, and they come with an unconditional satisfaction guarantee. If for any reason you are dissatisfied with these quality Patricia Fripp products, simply call the toll-free SNA customer hotline for a complete exchange or refund. It's that easy. Now's the time to see your opportunities and your talents more clearly by listening to and reading Patricia Fripp's proven formulas for success. As Patricia says, nobody cares about your future as much as you do. So begin today to make that future the best and brightest one imaginable.